Accountability is a bitch. This is when you show up. Yielding with assertiveness. Note, I think everyone needs a break from the universe, from AI, from fake news, from many, many lies, from everyone stabbing each other in the back, from fake money, pedophile enablers, and from a delusional era peaking this late spring before swinging back in the fall to give us again yet another slap of deception slash truth. A break to see through the veil because 2026 is coming, baby. Listen to my rant if you may, otherwise, read the transcript. Be well. Ding dong. So, this week's rant is going to be improvised. I thought about writing, but I don't feel like it this day. So, I do want to speak up a little bit about what I'm feeling. So many things going on. But what I'm catching, not only from the external stimuli that you receive through X or, Instagram or even the news or whatever, even speaking to other people, you realize that where the hell are we right now in terms of cycles? Which part of our lives are being diluted? Which part of yourself is not looking at things as they are and is lying? Because once you face it from a different perspective, you realize that it's all been a big, big, foggy lack of information. Even the rhythm of this rant is going to have probably no direction. So I'm just going to speak here and there. But this is exactly what's going on right now. So let's start by saying a couple of things. I give premise. The planet Saturn, that takes around 2 years and a half to go around every sign, and then it takes around 29 years to come back to that place. That's why we have heard, like, oh, the Saturn returns. Right now, we're ending for the next few weeks a journey of Saturn since March 2023 in the sign of Pisces. Pisces in the chart is the last sign, and it represents with Neptune the dissolution of everything. It has no boundaries. It's going back to source. It has a lot to do with how we have a spiritual purpose in life. And Saturn represents exactly the opposite. It is what defines reality. It is our authority, our outer skin. For many, many, many centuries, man could actually spot 7 planets with their naked eye. And only until 1781, when, with the aid of a telescope, Uranus was discovered, then we started discovering more celestial bodies that allow us to have a deeper sense of consciousness. I'm one of this person that believes that until you don't arrive to a certain state of consciousness, you cannot see things, because awareness is all about seeing things as they are. Being conscious means that you bring forth what has been hiding in the subconscious. Because right now we're going to have Saturn at the 29th degree, very critical degree of the zodiac, and also of the sign of Pisces. We're going to see a lot of things. It's like being in this threshold where you can actually see that there's a glimpse of reality that you have not spotted. There's a glimpse of delusion that you have not spotted. Or even if you have, right now, this is the time for you to say, holy shit. What is it that I am not seeing and I'm not taking seriously as a reality? Because at the very end, we're defining that reality. Neptune and Saturn, Pisces, help us define our dreams by making them real. So, is this what is real and what is not real? What is an illusion or delusion? So, I'm going to use 2 words that I've been really applying in my personal life. One is yielding, which will be an inner trust. That will be Neptune and Pisces. I'm yielding to something bigger, to God, to an ideology, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to talk about religion right now, but it is more about yielding to something bigger than you. It's having a trust, inner trust. That's very much represented by Pisces and Neptune. Now, Saturn, it's all about definition. But because they're both going to go into areas, I'm going to use the word assertiveness. When you want to speak up about something that you need and you're direct about what those needs are, you say them with assertiveness, and then the message can be heard and completely received I suppose if you just expect things to happen, then you expect other people to understand what your needs are. There's no definition. That's when boundaries actually collapse. That's when relationships collapse because people live under expectations and they don't come to terms with being assertive. Now, I'm playing a lot with this too, because in my chart and in my experience and what I've been going through in the last like 5 months of this very big fogginess that I've been speaking about, I've been writing about it. You've probably been reading about this fogginess. Is I'm going to be yielding at the same time, say things with assertiveness? How can I get my message clear, but also yielding into the moment? So it's something, it's a practice that has to be done in the moment. You have to choose with discernment where to show your vulnerability. That means where to yield to your vulnerability and when to choose a different outcome by being assertive and probably saying things or reminding people and yourself about things that probably you kept under a rug. You didn't want to see them. You see, when you keep things hiding, you don't see them. And somehow we can believe that they don't exist, but that's not true. When you actually open the drawer or you go under the bed and you try to sweep what is there, you will find a lot of stuff that is hiding. So that's really where we are right now. What is it about your life that you've been hiding to yourself, that you've been neglecting, that you've been lying to? And sometimes we don't lie in purpose. It's not that you don't have any integrity. It's more like you are not taking care of certain things. Therefore, it builds up like the dust on a surface that you don't wipe out. It's going to build up. So this is where we are. That's one of the things. Last night, I met a friend that came all the way from Boston to watch the great Gabor Mate live in here in Miami. I have to say that I was hesitant to go when I heard that he was coming, but then a little voice said, "No, you have to go and meet the man." Gabor came into my life around 2019, 2020. And then when we were all in lockdown, I became part of this group where he was invited and I became very familiar with what trauma was. I have a saying right now, it says like, where is drama, there is trauma. Meaning that when you make a big fuss about things, especially when you want to blame other people or the environment, it's because you probably have not been taking care of your needs. You have a lack of connectivity to them, and therefore you're just a reactive being, reacting with all your might about what's going on. And that's why you feel traumatized or you feel triggered. That word, beautiful word, you feel triggered about something. I spoke in the last podcast how to work with somatic practice. I'm bringing this here because he, again, during this talk last night, he reminded everybody that without doing a somatic practice work, without integrating when you go and do LSD or ayahuasca or whatever, whatever medium of choice you have in order to integrate your trauma, when you don't actually do the work in your body, it's just pure talk. It's just pure blah, blah, blah. So we have to remind ourselves on a daily basis where we're sort of cheating or we're being a little bit hypocritical. I want to use the word hypocrisy. It comes from Greek and it means the sin of pretending the virtue of goodness. So you are actually pretending something and you're playing a part. You are not distinguishing what is this or what is that. It is like a pretense, same capacity that we have when we play a persona, play as an actor in our lives. So when you look at the parts of yourself that are being played, so you can pretend something in front of others, you're actually a stage actor, you're a pretender. So this is the time right now that we need to go back and see which are the parts of our lives that we are being pretenders. Where is it that our persona is actually showing up and not our real authentic self, and our vulnerability is the one that actually is your real you. What makes you authentic is when you tap into that vulnerability, but we don't want to do that because who wants to feel vulnerable in front of others? But there's a way, there's a whole practice about when you accept that there's an illusion in your life, you can actually tap into this vulnerability. Marking the end of this cycle of Saturn in Pisces, we also can look very closely at the last cycle that ended in 1996 around April. What has this last cycle of 29 plus years meant for you in the area where that Saturn is? In my case, is my second house. I've been working a lot also because the nodes are there, the North Node is there. So that's where I've been working on value, how to assert my needs, how not to be oblivious or neglectful about them. Because since it's ruled by Pisces, that's a tendency. The tendency for me is to actually let things kind of slip away, like when water has no container. That's exactly what's been going on. I also reflected during the Venus retrograde a lot about where I was neglecting myself and where I was overpouring a lot of care for others. I have really made some decisions and made some acts that shows that I am mostly just yielding with assertiveness towards my needs first and not others. But there are moments that I have to kind of consider what is what. Remember, Saturn in Pisces has no boundaries. That's the lesson. I look around and see people surprised by revelations, like you go into whatever you call news and about truths that are emerging. But if you have been believing everything without doing any research, without educating yourself in different subject matters, and you have not done that in the last 5 years since what we call like the pandemic, you know, I feel you. You're probably in a very deceptive mode. But maybe you have done the work and you have not been taking care on a personal level to certain relationships or how you deal with certain things, whether it's money or your individuality or your relationship with others, your relationship to your children, if you have any relationship to how you want to be seen in the world, etc. There's always a relationship to something. Remember, life is relational. That's where we have to look at where it's been diluted and where we have the potential right now to assert ourselves by yielding into our needs. Again, assertive towards your needs or being yielding with assertiveness. So when you are yielding with assertiveness, that means that you actually take time, you pause, you do the somatic practice, you say, oh, this thing is triggering me. So how does that feel in the body? Blah, 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 blah. And then you say, well, these are the things that I can and I cannot do. These are the things that I think that are much better to be done. And then if you have an emotional authority, you take time to do them. If you're more with the splenic energy, you probably will know exactly what not to do. So follow that, follow your instinct and your intuition. And if you're more like a sacral gut person, just really follow what your gut is saying. But if you keep on following the little storytelling in your brain, you're completely going to be out of the loop, because I think that we've been told so many stories and we're created others that at this point we're living in another reality. The reality in itself is something that we make. Question this too, and I'm going to leave it there for now. What is the reality you have created in the last 3 years? And how do you want that reality to change? Because the good thing is that Saturn and Neptune are going to go back in the fall, back to Pisces, and that they're going to re enter in February 2026 so they can start a new beginning. And I've spoken about how other planets are going to change. So this is a very big opportunity to just do the homework, sit down, speak up to yourself, and be real. Stop pretending. Stop just showing up as this person that thinks has everything under control, because nobody does, not even me. Anyway, because I cannot control time, I'm just going to stop it now. Ding dong. So there I was watching from far away the vulnerability of my latest artwork, Arcana, which was recently installed at the University of Washington, exactly interdisciplinary building of engineer. And there I was, like very early in the morning. I don't know why. I woke up and I kind of saw the news. And then I was like, this is my work. And you see violent protests in the campus and people pro or against whatever. It doesn't matter what. They're inducing violence to come up with a message. And I'm against violence at all terms, even if it's for peace. That's an oxymoron. Can't coerce people to do something against their will. They basically met at 5 p.m. at the time that the building is closed, and they barricade inside at least 30 people, and they started burning furniture and spraying paint all over the brand new building that just opened. I was there 3 weeks ago installing the piece. had just opened. And the incredible thing is, like, I was giving a tour with all the equipment this engineer students are going to have for AI and for like making pieces in 3D machines. Amazing, amazing equipment. They all destroy it. They haven't even used the equipment. So my question is to the humans who are basically more NPCs, non-player characters than just humans, that they're playing under a regime that has been using them, that they're possessed. Do you understand that the reality that you're being fed through academia and through social media, it's not real? When are you going to wake up, if you're going to wake up? So I was very outraged. I was very sad. I had a mixed bag of emotions, and I already done the work, somatic practice. And right now the only thing I have to say is, like, I don't have answers about anything in this world right now, absolutely zero answers, but I have more questions. I have more questions about the capacity we have as humans to actually evolve. I have more questions than that. I can go on and on with other news about appointments, people being completely abusive about the information and about their status and about what they do. I mean, you just go listen to Bernie Sanders just saying unapologetically that it is okay for him to take private jets because to fight the oligarchy because Donald Trump does the same. But then the interviewer says, like, yeah, but he's not fighting the oligarchy. So it's funny how all these social programs, they want fairness, they don't want to do the work. So I was initially going to call this post, I may do that, accountability is a bitch, because you actually need to do a lot of work when you are accountable. You need to make exercises daily about what's not working. You have to put a mirror in all relationships that you have. You have to use every relationship with people, situations, or things as a mirror of where you're lying to yourself, where you're being hypocritical, where is the hypocrisy, where is the pretense, where is all that. So this is fun times, funkiness, but at the same time, it's the moment of truth. Because I don't want to say what's going to happen in the economy. I don't want to say what's going to happen with the government. Who knows? Like, we're all building this new paradigm. So if you think that we're going to build something that is similar, means that we don't want to do the work. So it depends on each one of us how we stand up every day and are true to our authentic self that needs so much inner voice, that needs to be represented by who we came to be, not who other people want us to be, including the illusion of yourself. Ah, big sigh. Ding dong. I can't be excited about the new Pope. Why? First of all, like, why do we still need this kind of institutions that are so detached from the day to day of everybody's life? Why do we need to bow to an authority, a human being that says that he has direct contact to God? Would it be great if people actually find that connection to themselves? And now, okay, let's say we get these people in these high positions and whatever, and they pick up money every Sunday and they build this fortune and they have these incredible museums. By the way, my artwork, it's part of the contemporary collection at the Vatican, but that's a story I'll tell later. What I learned about this new pope, first of all, the one that died, I just completely never liked him. He was a real socialist slash communist, that so progressive, so woke, that he was pretty much assigned by the deep state. I am very sure. So when he passed, I was like, okay, another human is gone. So big deal. Then this new guy came in, this American Pope. I just did his chart. I'm going to read a little bit about what I wrote about his chart. I didn't have the exact time. Guess who has a Jupiter in Leo, third quarter square with Saturn in Scorpio? The new Pope. I got the natal time from William Stickeveers on X, so some of my reading using that time might be inaccurate. However, I'm focused on signs and faces. Here we go. Wow, there's a lot of Leo in this chart. A lot of self-validation coming through this new role. The ascendant, Jupiter, the moon, Pluto, and Uranus, that's the whole solar field of visibility, pride, image, and self-importance. The curiosity for me is how he's going to lead. Will it come through the second house, Virgo, humble views, discernment, service? Or is it going to be a Jupiterian, pompous, showing off ideals without touching the root? Didn't he start speaking in Latin, showing off that he speaks the language? I don't know. Because the root of everything is very dark. The scandals are there, the secrets are thick. I mean, in the church. So, Scorpio, Saturn in the fourth house, this is something to really pay attention to. These are crystallized structures, emotional knots passed down through ancestry. Is it the blood family or is it the family he chose when he took his vows? Could be both. Saturn is the institution. Scorpio holds what's hidden: drama, power, sexuality, secrets. That square to Jupiter on the ascendant says, you can't expand until you confront this. Is this the time for that? Pluto conjunct the moon in Leo, if the time is correct. This is image management tangled with emotional control. Is he as controlling about his image as he's about how he shows up? This generation of Pluto and Leo hasn't dealt with accountability. There's a way to show off wisdom without really maturing into it. But what I see in this chart is a call to the confrontation. And finally, living through the polarity of Pluto in Aquarius. The North Node in the fifth house, that's if the time is accurate, that's also Leo territory. Creative presence, sovereignty, something generative. But the ruler is Jupiter in Leo on his ascendant. Again, what's the quality of what he expresses? Is it real or is it a costume? Who is he? There's also a skip step. Sun and Venus in Virgo squaring the nodes. He's been going back and forth. Something in the past didn't land. Maybe he was already seen, already celebrated, but the inner value didn't match. Now he's here to integrate self worth with service, values with embodiment. Let's see what happens. Then we look at Neptune and Mercury in Libra, sitting in the third house, his voice, how he communicates. And I see this as a problem. There's a square between Neptune and Uranus. He's suddenly adapting, trying to be pleasing, probably wants to be liked, wants to say the right thing. But is he really speaking truth? Because with Neptune there, truth gets slippery. It's hard to know if what he says is coming from clarity or illusion. Is he avoiding something? Uranus in the 12th house points to hidden rebellion, hidden agendas. And that square to Neptune, third quarter, says something is going to break through at some point. Something unexpected, maybe something already buried. Could be beautiful, but it could also be destructive. I decided to be pessimistic about it, or more like realistic rather than optimistic, because when I learned who he was, I do remember back in the year 2000, there was a scandal where the cardinal or bishop, he's not a cardinal, he's a bishop in Chicago, that had taken care of a pedophile that had been a priest in the 90s. And so he gave him shelter in his church, something like that. If you want the details, you should Google it. I forgot the name of the priest, is something Ray. But anyway, for me, the church has always been enabling abuse, all kinds of abuse. And just to make things more spicy, I'm going to give you a link down there of a Netflix series that I watched over 4 years ago. It's called Suburra, which is a very ancient name of this region or this neighborhood, Rome. It used to be called like that. And this is really speaking a lot about the corruption, not only of the church, but the government, because Rome is the capital of the country of Italy, drugs, gypsies, and the church. It's fantastic series that I watched like 4 years ago, because I, at this point, think that the church is so compromised. Now, my story with the church is that I represented the Vatican 2015, 10 years ago, at the Venice Biennale, which is a very big event. They commissioned me to do a piece. That's why my work is in their museums. But dealing with the church was one of the most difficult dealings I had, because of the way they want to control things, their condescendence with the people that they chose to be participant of the Biennale. The most interesting part is they still owe me money. They didn't pay for everything. I think the curator was not very happy with me, because I have this thing, it's like whenever I need to speak up, I do so. I'm not afraid. To be authentic and to speak up is more important than anything else. So, anyway, this is the end of this rant. What's going to happen with the Pope? He's not going to fix anything. People are going like, oh my God, he's going to be a great Pope. No, he isn't. Doesn't matter. What I do see is that a lot of people are turning into religion as a shelter because they're so shit scared about what's happening right now. They don't know where to hold on. So they're just holding on to the only thing they know, which is the church. So good luck with that. Ding dong. And it's always great to go back to the Sabian symbols that they were written in a beautiful book by Dan Rudyard, An Astrological Mandala. So we're going to see the phase 360, which is Pisces at 30 degrees. There's no Pisces at 30, but we always go one step higher for the one before 29. A majestic rock formation resembling a face is idealized by a boy who takes it at his ideal of greatness and, as he grows up, begins to look like it. The keynote is the power of clearly visualized ideals to mold the life of the visualizer. Nathaniel Hawthorne's story, The Great Stone Face, is used here in an allegorical sense to show the capacity for self-transformation latent in man. This power can be developed through visualization, when the emotions and the will are poured into the visualized mental image. At the highest spiritual cosmic level, this is the power used by the God-like beings at the close of a cosmic cycle in projecting the basic formula, the word, or logos, which will start a new universe. In a biological sense, it is the power latent in all seeds, the power to produce and guide the growth of the future plant. A most fitting symbol for the last phase of the cyclic process. Within the end of the cycle, the seed of a new beginning exists in potency, unless the entire cycle has proven to be a failure. This is the last stage of the last scene of the great ritual play of cyclic transformations. It brings to us a realization of the power of archetypes as factors conditioning life processes. Thus, we can use as a final keyword archetypalization. Note, I'm going to read a quote from the text of the Great Stone Face. At some future day, said he to himself, a child shall be born hereabouts, who will grow up to be the greatest and noblest personage of his time, and whose countenance in manhood shall bear an exact resemblance to the Great Stone Face. So have a great week. I might transcribe this so people can read it. I might not. It all depends. I'm just in another mood right now. I'm very reflective, but at the same time, I am doing a lot of this inner work so I can make some positive changes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye bye.